The Boeing 747 was more than just an airplane, it was a revolution with wings. Its iconic hump and four massive engines promised to carry more people farther than ever before. The 747 symbolized American power and engineering, making international travel affordable and shrinking the globe. Pan Am, the king of international travel, was the airline that brought the world closer together. Led by visionary Juan Trippe, Pan Am didn't just buy planes, they helped design them. Trippe's partnership with Boeing had already created the legendary 707, ushering in the jet age. But Trippe wanted bigger, a double-decker giant to carry hundreds, driving down ticket prices and opening the world to the middle class. Boeing listened, and the 747 was born from these bold conversations. Pan Am wasn't just the launch customer, it was the co-creator, shaping the jet's design and features. Trippe's vision convinced Boeing to take on massive risks, willing the 747 into existence. For Pan Am, the 747 was meant to cement its dominance for generations. It was a bet on the future, a future Pan Am was determined to create. The 747 and Pan Am were inseparable, their destinies intertwined. This was more than a plane. It was the ultimate symbol of ambition. But ambition always comes with risk. Before the 747, Pan Am looked unstoppable, but its finances were fragile. The airline had just spent heavily on jets like the 707, piling up debt. Profitability depended on ever-growing international passenger numbers, a risky bet. In this context, Juan Trippe made his boldest move, ordering 25 Boeing 747s for $525 million in 1966, over $4 billion today. The plane hadn't even flown yet, its engines were still in development. Trippe staked Pan Am's future on a single unproven aircraft. He believed the 747's size would slash ticket prices and crush competitors. His confidence convinced the board and banks to back the deal. But this gamble relied on endless economic growth, low fuel prices, and weak competition. It assumed millions of new travelers would fill the extra seats. Every assumption would soon be tested. The 747 order was Trippe's crowning achievement, and his riskiest. The stakes were enormous, and the margin for error was razor-thin. The future of Pan Am now hinged on a single massive bet. The rules of the game were about to change. In 1968, as the 747 neared completion, Juan Trippe retired. His successors were experienced, but lacked his vision and political clout. They inherited Trippe's massive 747 commitment, but saw only risk and debt. The contracts were signed, the planes were being built, there was no turning back. The new management was more cautious, focused on short-term survival. Without Trippe's bold leadership, Pan Am lost its edge. Decision-making slowed, just as the company needed agility. The spirit of innovation faded, replaced by risk aversion. Pan Am began to drift, reacting to crises instead of shaping the future. The king was gone, and his successors struggled with his colossal legacy. The 747's cost went far beyond the planes themselves. Pan Am had to rebuild airport gates, jet bridges, and baggage systems to handle the giant jet. Massive new maintenance facilities and specialized ground equipment were required. Training hundreds of pilots and launching global marketing campaigns added to the bill. The true cost of integrating the 747 approached $1 billion. To pay for it, Pan Am plunged deep into debt, leveraging every asset. By 1970, its long-term debt topped $1 billion, a crushing burden. The airline's survival depended on filling every 747 seat, every flight. The break-even point was sky-high, anything less spelled disaster. Pan Am was now financially fragile, balanced on a knife's edge. The 747 was supposed to pull the company into a sea of profits. But the debt was an anchor and a storm was gathering. The gamble had left Pan Am with no margin for error. The future would test every assumption. As Pan Am bet everything on the 747, the competitive landscape shifted. Regulators allowed domestic rivals like TWA and Northwest to fly international routes. Pan Am, with no domestic network, was at a huge disadvantage. Rivals could feed passengers from across the U.S. into their international flights. Pan Am could only fill seats from coastal gateway cities. The arrival of the 747 magnified this problem. Too many seats, not enough passengers. A brutal price war erupted, with airlines slashing fares to fill their planes. Pan Am's dream of the 747 as a moneymaker evaporated. Instead of crushing the competition, Pan Am was forced into desperate discounts. The lack of a domestic network became a fatal flaw. The Queen of the Skies was now a burden. Survival was no longer guaranteed. The timing of the 747's debut was disastrous. The early 1970s recession killed the travel boom Pan Am had banked on. Half-empty 747s became a common sight. Technical problems plagued the new jets with unreliable engines and costly maintenance. Then the 1973 oil crisis hit. Fuel prices quadrupled overnight. The 747's size, once its strength, became its greatest liability. Operating costs soared and each flight lost money. Pan Am was locked into its jumbo jet strategy, unable to adapt. Selling the planes wasn't an option. Every airline was in the same predicament. The 747, once a symbol of progress, became a financial trap. Pan Am was stuck with too many giant planes and not enough passengers. The Queen of the Skies threatened to bring down its creator. The future looked bleak. The financial damage was swift and severe. Pan Am lost $26 million in 1970. By 1974, losses topped $82 million. The airline's reputation and stock price collapsed. Desperate, Pan Am brought in William Sewell to cut costs and sell assets. Thousands of employees were laid off, and prized assets were sold. Even Pacific routes were traded for a domestic network, unthinkable just years before. Cost-cutting brought a brief recovery, but the damage was done. Pan Am was now a shadow of its former self, burdened by debt and strategic missteps. The 747 gamble had permanently weakened the company. The recovery was fragile, a temporary reprieve, not a true comeback. The 747 wasn't the sole cause of Pan Am's demise, but it was the turning point. The bet on the jumbo jet magnified every weakness. Debt, lack of a domestic network, and economic shocks became existential threats. The Queen of the Skies, once Pan Am's crowning achievement, became the weight that dragged it down. The dream that once soared now marked the beginning of the end.